Welcome to the Maternal podcast, a space for all things related to maternal health, pregnancy, and beyond. I'm your host, Stephanie Terrio. I am a labor and delivery nurse and a mother to 3 beautiful boys. Each week, we dive into inspiring stories and expert insights to remind us of the power that you hold in childbirth and motherhood. We're here to explore the joys, the challenges, and the complexities of maternal health. Every mother's journey is unique, and every story deserves to be told. Please note that this podcast is for entertainment purposes only. It is not intended to replace professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always consult with your healthcare provider for medical guidance that is tailored to your specific needs. Are you ready? Let's get into it. Today, we welcome Stephanie Dunn. A few months ago, I was looking for women who wanted to be on the show, and Stephanie immediately reached out. Stephanie lives in Ohio, and she has 2 daughters, a 10-year-old and a 6-year-old. Stephanie works to help women turn their purpose into powerful presence. Let's welcome Stephanie to the show. Welcome, Stephanie.
Hi there. Thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you for coming. I'm excited to get into the conversation, to learn more about you, your birth stories, and how that incorporated and transformed your journey to do what you're doing now in helping women.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's going to be a pretty amazing conversation. So I'm ready to get started.
Would you like to start off and let us know about your 2 birth stories and how that brought you to where you are today?
Yeah, sure. So just to begin, so people don't think that I don't necessarily have any experience in the medical world. So I actually managed an OBGYN office for a long time. I only say this because it kind of maybe brings out the realness and kind of that raw feeling of motherhood, no matter how much experience you think that you have or how much you think that you know. That we all go through the exact same thoughts and feelings, even those that are in, the women's health profession. So I spent 17 years in medical office management and leadership in an OBGYN office. So I managed multiple providers. I had not just a doctor, but multiple midwives and nurse practitioners and a physician assistant and an ultrasound technician at my fingertips. So they were there in the office with me every single day to answer every single question that I had. So you would think that I would be very well versed and very prepared. My first pregnancy with my oldest daughter was near perfect. Growth-wise, she was well. Development-wise, she was well. There was nothing that would indicate any sort of, mishaps in delivery whatsoever. Things in my mind were just going to go absolutely perfect. And because I was so well educated, and again, I had all of these people to answer all of these questions for me right there at my fingertips, I just thought this is going to be easy peasy in and out. We're going to have a baby. She's going to be healthy. We're going to go home and we're just going to, live our wonderful life. First of all, can I tell you too, even all of the patients that I encountered over the years, all of the stories and things that I had heard from labor and delivery, I thought when I first started having contractions and actually went into labor, that it would be a lot more like the movies. And I don't know how many other people thought that. I just thought as soon as I went into labor, I would be screaming in agony, and it would be the absolute worst thing that I had ever done in my entire life. But I started to have back labor with my oldest daughter. Mm-hmm. And at first it was just very uncomfortable to even sit down. So it started, right around bedtime for us, which was 9 p.m. in the evening. And I just told my husband, I can't get comfortable. I can't lay down. I don't know. I'm just going to stay up on the couch. I'll watch TV for a little bit. And everything was fine. in general, I was just having some back pain, and it continued, started to come around to my stomach. We stayed up all night long, and I'm like, I don't know. I'm just so uncomfortable. And I was never like screaming in pain. And I thought there would just be clear signs. So I ended up at 8 a.m. the next morning. This lasted all night long. At 8 a.m. the next morning, I called the physician assistant at our office because she was typically the first one there. And I just said, are you at the office yet? Like, I just have so much pain and I don't know why. Like, I'm not having any other concerns. I'm just in pain. And I don't know, can you like check me? Can we get a heart tone? Just see what's going on. I met her at the office. She checked me and she was like, I mean, I would call you're definitely at a 6. Like, you are dilated in labor. You need to go to labor and delivery. And I was like, you're kidding. And she was like, how long has this been going on? And I said, well, about 12 hours now. And, it was not obvious to me even that this was just, it was time. So we went down to labor and delivery straight from the office. I got there and everything again seemed to be perfectly fine. I had the anesthesiologist come in and they asked if I wanted an epidural. I was not one of those people that wanted to try to do a natural birth necessarily. I am a pretty small person in general. And I just thought, I don't know if this baby's 7 pounds or so, I'm just going to go with the comfort. And that was, again, just one of those decisions that was a decision of mine. I heavily applaud people that can give birth naturally, and that's amazing. But I opted for the epidural. We went through all of that. 3:15 or so in the afternoon, my water still had not broke, so they came in and broke my water. And, we immediately just kind of started pushing. Well, throughout the day, my baby's heart rate had dropped several times. And I don't think that they necessarily told me every single time that it did for fear of just kind of making that anxiety worse and not sure, I wasn't sure what to expect. So, they were like, we're going to go ahead and we're going to start pushing. So I did. And immediately my baby's heart rate just dropped. So we stopped. We tried several times. Her heart rate would come back up and I would try pushing again and it just immediately dropped. We went through obviously a series of different things, different positions. And they were like, we're just not seeing any progress at all. So they had me try to push one more time. They could see the baby's head at that point, but heart rate was dropping quickly. They tried to put on a vacuum, tried it 3 different times and failed. And the third time that it popped off, I remember my doctor, who I had worked for a very long time, somebody that I trusted so much, and his expertise and just his ability to remain calm in emergency situations. That's why I wanted him to deliver my child in the first place. Her heart rate just tanked at that point after that last pop off. And he was like, we're going to the OR. I was into the OR within a minute and a half. And I think that first incision was made within like 3 to 4 minutes of him saying, we're going. I remember the assistant physician yelling in the OR that, she needed help. The baby had flipped. So they had tried to pull her head out and she flipped before they could get her head out. And they were able to finally together get her out, but she was blue, not breathing. And at first, like, completely scared me because obviously, you expect that your baby's just going to come out crying and everything is going to be fine. And then I heard them call for the resuscitation team. And fairly quickly after that, they backed the resuscitation team off. They never had to intubate her. They were able to stimulate her to come around. But, anybody that knows and anybody that's had a baby, her first APGAR was a 1. And it's just a concerning number for a mom that expects, I've had this healthy pregnancy. Everything has been great. What happened? Like, where did it all go wrong? And because I was so educated and I knew that things went wrong, I knew that I should be able to expect the unexpected. And I knew what all the unexpecteds were, that I thought there is no way that I can go into this and not come out with a perfectly healthy child. So everything was fine after that. And when I say fine, like she was breathing, she had gotten her color back, things seemed good. They took us back to the room for recovery. She came back with us. We went just through all of those normal post-op C-section recovery steps. They're checking in. They let family come in because it was so late in the evening at that point in time. And I said, I just want my parents to come back. So they allowed my parents to come back to see the baby. And it was just them and my husband. And then as the evening went on, they were like, we're going to go ahead. We're going to let you get some rest. Baby's good. Everything's fine. We'll come back in and we'll check on her in just a little bit, but she's good. So I fell asleep. It was pretty late at night. Obviously, I was exhausted just from the C-section. And I woke up, I remember it was about 4:00 in the morning. And I saw my husband sitting beside me, but the bassinet was gone. And I said, "Where did she go?" And he said, "Well, they came in the middle of the night. You were sleeping. They said that she was a little bit limp and just not super responsive." And immediately my heart sank. Like, what do you mean? And my husband's not in the medical field. He doesn't know always, I would say, the right way to explain things, or like maybe in the most comforting way. But he was like, I don't know. They were really concerned with her. So they took her to the nursery. And he said that they did some blood work and her blood sugar levels are really, really low. And the pediatrician had apparently been following her through the night. They called him in. They got her stabilized. They hooked her up to an IV. He said, she's down in the nursery. She's doing fine, but they're going to have to keep her there until they can see what exactly is going on. Why are her blood sugar levels dropping? So we went down, and I was met down there early in the morning by one of the lactation consultants. And she was like, we would like for you to go ahead and try to breastfeed her. We had to give her something because, one, you were sleeping. Two, her blood sugar levels tanked so much. We needed to figure out a way to get her stabilized. So she has had a bottle at this point in time, but if it is your desire to breastfeed, we want you to try that. And I tried to breastfeed her. She would not latch for anything. We tried for days to get her to latch. And I think they hooked me up to different pumps. We tried different ways of expression. We tried me pumping. We tried like so many different things. And it just was a struggle. And I think, again, I went into all of that thinking I'm a, healthy, like 28-year-old woman. I should be able to fairly easily breastfeed my child. I have no major medical issues. And again, I just thought I'm so well educated on all of this and I have all of these people at my beck and call. I should be able to do that. And none of it worked out the way that I thought it would. So I look back kind of on that. My daughter now is happy and healthy and growing, and she is the most amazing kid in the entire world. But I think even the most educated, well-prepared women who give birth aren't necessarily equipped with the necessary tools to overcome when it doesn't all go perfectly. Because one thing that I've realized with my own birth story with my oldest daughter is that knowledge really isn't everything. And I say now a lot of the times, like, we go through school even thinking like the more you know, the more power you have. But knowledge really isn't power if you don't know what to do with it when you have it. And that was the whole thing, is that I had all of this knowledge. I had all of this kind of secondhand experience from other people, but I didn't learn or grow from any of it until I was faced with it myself. And I think the biggest thing that I was afraid to talk about, because I was in a position where I should have so much knowledge, was my own struggle with mental health after I had my daughter. And I think that is not just for women who do have knowledge, but for all women. I think that it has become a struggle to really talk about some of the mental health challenges that come with even the most perfect of pregnancies. It's what happens after you come home and all of those things that you are not just afraid to ask for help with, but you are afraid to handle them in your own way because we look so much to other people to give us that power that we already have within us.
We pause this episode for a quick message from our sponsor. At Maternal Wealth, we aim to ensure that you have access to the best and the most appropriate care. That's why we created a maternal healthcare provider database. Maternal health providers can easily create profiles to promote their services and business, helping to increase access for those seeking their care. This is a one-of-a-kind database that offers a new and exciting way for women to search for and find maternal health providers near them and tailored to their specific needs. Profiles feature badges that highlight various services such as TOLAC-friendly practices, all-female practices, LGBTQAI+ inclusivity, language options, access to vaginal breech services, and more. Additionally, be sure to check out our Not Your Average Birth course. In this course, I discuss the variations that exist in hospital practices based on policies, staffing, and budgets, all of which can directly affect your birth experience and outcome. When you say we're afraid to handle it in our own way, what do you mean by that?
I think if we looked at a lot of the roles that we play in life, we are externally directed much more than we are internally led. So we have so much frustration. We feel so stuck in so many of the roles that we play in life because we are constantly looking to be validated from external circumstances, especially when it comes to motherhood and maternal mental health. You know, we compare ourselves a lot to other moms, to other women. Are they handling it better than us? Did they lose the weight faster? She seems happy. Why am I not? You know, and then we have all of these people around us that are telling us, well, you know, this is just how motherhood is. You know, you're stressed and overwhelmed 99% of the time, you know, but this is what you signed up for. And we're not necessarily given the tools to look at the possibility of like, what if this isn't how it's supposed to be? And I think that frustration comes from the fact that we cannot get ourselves from who we are to who we're meant to be because we're giving other people the power or waiting for the tools from other people to be able to build that bridge. We're not putting that power into our own hands. So when I looked at my own motherhood journey, I think I immediately thought to myself, what did I do wrong? Like, why couldn't I deliver this baby the way I wanted to or the way that you're supposed to? And, you know, unfortunately, there are these mom groups and stuff all over and influencers that we're following on social media that are telling women that you're less of a mom if you have a C-section, if you don't deliver vaginally, like that's the way that it's supposed to be. And if you had a C-section, you took the easy way out. And you don't want to let those things affect you, but we are so conditioned to believe that our achievements and all of those things determine our worth and our value. And at the extreme level, when we're looking at maternal health